All right, thank you everyone. As you said, my name is Kyle. Is this thing working? Just want to make sure. Maybe. Anyway, yeah, Kyle Leonard. I'm a commercial real estate agent. Everybody's kind of wondering. I recently switched to Francis Realty Company, so I'm kind of excited to show you guys what the differences are and kind of what the changes of what I've been doing. So, with that, I won't keep you. Um, this is my family on the far right picture. It's my direct family, me, my dad in the kind of green shirt there, my mom, my sister, and then Ryan, who's obviously right there. Sister's going to Grand Valley this year, so just got done with the first year, going into nursing, so all the hard stuff, science and whatnot. And then my dad, engineer, smart guy. My mom keeps everyone organized. So, and then there's my fiance right there, Megan. She is a teacher at Grand Valley, GRPS. So she has special needs. So all those kids who are having struggles, and a lot of them, have tough home lives too. So it's a really patient job. And then these are my fur babies, Kiwi and Clementine. Kiwi's the oldest, and Clementine, and then Pearl we just got. So now we have three. So hobbies, I like to, I did a 5K this year. That's the first year that I've done. Running, I like to travel. So that's a picture of Miami, Florida, where we went this year for spring break. Um, and this is another travel picture out west. And then this is from Ryan's bachelor party this weekend. As you can see, we like to golf. We like to we like to play tennis, like to play sports. So always fun time. So, without further ado, I'm going to get into kind of what I do. So, Francis Realty Company is we do investments, brokerage, and property management. So, kind of all three of the really what you can do in real estate. With the investment, we mostly do syndicated deals and partnerships, but I can get into that later. With brokerage, that's kind of where I'm coming in at, bringing a lot of more of the sales and buying and selling and leasing side. And then property management, we do triple net, and then obviously I do some storage management as well. So investment strategies. One of the strategies we do, value add, is increasing revenue through better operations, better property management, building improvements, and stuff like that. So that's one of the strategies that we've had. That building right there is an example. That's kind of blurry. But you come into a building, sometimes it's, they're either mom and pop owned, smaller companies, just don't have as good of management. That's an example of that. They had tenants that weren't paying that they just didn't kick out. So they came in, got some new tenants, got the paying tenants, and tenants that cooperate. A lot of times with value add, it's about the relationships you can bring in there too, and businesses that are going to work well and feed off each other. So you really want to make sure that when you're bringing a value add, you have businesses that can go into a building, or I mean even tenants that can go into a building that are going to work together and cooperate. Um, Opportunistic, that is kind of ground up development. There's a lot of apartments going up in Grand Rapids right now. I don't know if you've noticed, but Grand Rapids needs a lot of housing. So we've done a couple deals like that, but not as many. It's getting kind of competitive. A lot of the bigger companies like Einhorn are starting to come in and be like, hey, we could just build apartments for cheaper, get scale. But there's still development opportunities, and that's what we look for too. Can also do distressed assets and like major repositioning. Like if you're looking for downtown buildings that are office and they want to be converted to apartments, that's kind of what the major repositioning would be. And then distressed assets are distressed assets, run down buildings and whatnot. So common investment structures. This is kind of how you structure the deals. A lot of time, we do mostly at Francis Realty a lot of partnerships. So partnerships being, a group of 3, 4, maybe 5 investors that own maybe not a huge majority portion, but 20 or 30% each. So that way it kind of lowers the risk of doing developments. Developments can be very risky, and if you yourself or only a couple people are doing it, and it doesn't go right, and you miss something, it can go wrong very quickly. So it kind of diversifies, your risk when you're doing developments. Um, Syndications are very similar. Um, Investor or myself would find a deal and then kind of pool the investors. So somebody who doesn't have a lot of capital yet can kind of put those together without, you know, having a lot of money. And then, joint venture is kind of the same thing, but very similar going in on a investment like that. And then this right here, that one is a storage development they did in Greenville, Flat River Storage. Example of a partnership. They had 4 partners on that one, each owning about 25%, give or take. But it's a good property. It runs well, and they all did good on it just because the risk is low and they had a good market study. So the rest is the brokerage. This is kind of where I'm still doing more of a lot of the investment sales. So selling and income producing properties. This could be any businesses that are in buildings that are looking to move. It doesn't have to be just industrial. It could be office, retail, anything like that. But businesses are either looking to consolidate. They don't need all their office space anymore. They're looking to sell the building and downsize, or they are growing extremely fast. They're going to need more space and they want to buy. It can be that. It can be you want to buy a self-storage facility. You can go out and buy and sell those different types of assets. And go working with me, I could do syndications as well. So if you're looking to get into real estate, we can bring other investors in. So it's not like you're just going to be the one that's putting all up the money and then we'll hope if it works out. We can bring in other investors. I also still do a little bit of leasing, tenant landlord. Turn left. We do. So I do tenant and landlord representation. So it doesn't matter, if somebody's looking, got a vacant building or has vacant space in their either in their office or in their, industrial that they're not using, whatever that may be. We could find tenants for that space, so it's not you're just sitting on empty space. It doesn't make sense for most businesses anyway. So you can bring in a tenant, bring in some income, or if you're looking for a space that you need, I can help you out with that. Office, doesn't matter, industrial. Mostly what I'm looking for on that side are landscapers like you, Alex, that are growing and getting bigger, that are going to need, more industrial space or more outside space to put their stuff, or like units, plant, or anything like that, buying and selling businesses. Owner user sales. So this is more of businesses are looking to expand by, they're either buy or reposition for their business. So, it's more of like business owners that own their own buildings, not as much like renters on the tenant side. And then these are a couple projects I did. This one was a lease in Byron Center. We leased out that office space, kind of the same thing as like the tenant landlord representation. They just had extra space that they weren't using and it was just sitting there. And they're like, hey, can you get this back up? We need, we could use it. We're not using the office anymore. They downsized, but they still own the building. So, you can bring in some extra money by just having that office space on there. And then this is an example of tenant rep. Daniel Collins, he's a photo guy. He wanted to go into the water center downtown for a showroom. He already had some office space, but he wanted to expand his area and get a nice showroom downtown so he could bring in clients and show them kind of what different products he has and what he can do. So it's an example of tenant rep. I wish I had a before picture. It actually looked way worse, but they and also on the tenant side too, we can help you negotiate a better deal than just going to the landlord and be like, hey, I'll just pay full price, no tenant improvement, no nothing. Obviously, that's what the landlord would like, but you can kind of, if you have somebody to rep you, you can get a little bit better deal. That was actually mostly on the landlord for tenant improvement. So I guess I'll make it a little bit quick. The self-storage property management, I'd manage 3,200 self-storage units kind of across West Michigan and Central Michigan, Whitehall, Lakeview, Greenville, Allendale, Mount Pleasant, Big Rapids, all those areas. So if you have anybody who's owns a self-storage facility or that is looking for management, I can help with that. And then we also do triple net property management, which means just bigger buildings like retail, office, industrial tenants that they don't want to deal with their own stuff, or they have tenants inside it that are responsible for paying for if something breaks or anything like that, CAM charges, dealing with those. We can do that as well. And with that, those are just all the different brands for storage I have, but that's it. Any questions? All right.